Chairman, I'm going to begin, not as my notes would have it, by taking up the Minister's invitation. And he mentioned that the advice that he's received, and he suspects all his predecessors have received, is build more courts, houses and appoint more judges. Well, Minister, I will say, how about getting the judges to work harder? In this country, judges seem to work 9 till 3, 5 days a week. In other jurisdictions, people are brought before the... What was that, Mr Hughes? In other jurisdictions, Mr Chairman, such as Singapore and, of course, the USA, night courts and weekend courts are a common feature. And for very good reason, Mr Chairman. The old maxim, of course, justice delayed is justice denied, is extremely important and goes back as far as the Magna Carta. In our view, Mr Chairman, this government should have a target of having all cases heard and decided within 1 year of charges being laid. And that is not an impossible task at all. At the moment, the courthouse lies idle from 4 o'clock or 4:30 until 9 or 10 o'clock the next morning. And that can easily change, Minister. You'll probably have the Minister will probably have some problems getting existing judges to work harder, but there's no good reason that with the queue of people wishing to be DCJs, those who wish to be appointed couldn't be appointed on contracts that require them to work the night shift from time to time, as the rest of society does. The delays that we have seen are unfair to victims, and they are unfair to the accused. The victims have the right to have the case to which or of which they are central, and in my view they are central, not the state, resolved quickly, and likewise the accused have the right to their presumption of innocence and to have their trial brought as quickly as possible. One high-profile example just recently of how the system is not working, Mr Chairman, is I'm not a sports fan, but I'm told this fellow Rene Ranger is a well-known rugby player, arrested on 2 charges of injuring with intent committed in August last year. His case may be heard in November, 1 year after his arrest, but the officer in charge of the case apparently says it's more likely to be further delayed until September or October next year, 2 years after his arrest. And that is absurd, Mr Chairman. It is unjust. It would be comical if it wasn't so serious. As I've said at the beginning, other countries have night courts and weekend courts. Singapore has had night courts in place since 1992 for the express purpose of dealing with, quote, the high volume of regulatory and traffic offences, close quote, that would otherwise block their courts, thus delaying more serious cases to be heard. And that's exactly what we've got going on here. Many US states use night courts to deal with such issues as landlord and tenant disputes, small claims and minor misdemeanours. People don't stop committing crimes, of course, because it's the weekend. More recently, Mr Chairman, the Minister has introduced, I think with widespread support in the House, on-the-spot protection orders. Persons subjected to those have the right to have their cases heard as well. Night and weekend courts can play a key role here, as they do in Alaska, North Carolina and other places. Bail hearings are another issue, Mr Speaker. I found myself in the unique position a couple of weeks ago of agreeing with Mr Peter Williams QC that bail hearings are woefully slow in this country. While it is true that less than 5% of people found remanded in custody are found not guilty, it is unjust to have those 5% on remand for more than a year awaiting trial. The sooner those arrested have bail hearings, the more justice is not only done, but seen to be done. Mr Chairman, I've witnessed firsthand in American states bail hearings which are always done the morning after arrest, and they get through several hundred of them in a couple of hours. And there is no reason why we could not do that too. If we adopt best practice from other countries, and indeed the private sector, as the Minister's touched on, the AVL legislation, which again had widespread support across the House, we can go a long way to unclogging our courts and fulfilling our constitutional obligations to both victims and accused alike. Thank you.